Okay.
Great. Yeah, we're here. Great to see you. We're used to having some superstar politicians in Albany, but not too often. And we're used to having superstar athletes, but we have one now. And it's a great pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Albany. Do you know Albany? Had you ever been to the Capitol before?
No, actually, I haven't ever been to the Capitol before.
Beautiful building, isn't it?
But it is a beautiful building.
Well, for those who don't know, Darryl Strawberry is one of the most famous ball players ever. The Yankees, the Mets. I mean, I could go over his biography, but we don't have enough time. We only have 15 minutes or so. And he's being joined here by Ken Johnson, who's a senior vice president of Pharma, which is a major pharmaceutical company lobbying group. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, we represent America's brand name drug companies.
Absolutely. So if you would, Mr. Strawberry, you don't mind if I call you Darryl here?
Not call me Darryl.
Right. Why are you here? What brings you to Albany today? What's your purpose in being here?
My purpose here is with Ken. I've done a lot of things with Ken for over the last, year or so. And just the importance of medicine and Medicare, and the hope, the hope that it brings to people that don't have the means. See, I was someone that had the means because I was sick, I was ill. Had cancer twice, and I was able to have medicine and care taken care of. But there's a lot of people, across America, across the world that just, don't have the means like Darryl Strawberry or someone else that sits here.
So what is it that you would hope that here in New York, the legislature or the governor would do? Certainly we're at a very difficult time, as I'm sure you know. In New York, we've got a huge deficit. They're trying to cut programs, not increase them. What is it? Do you have any specifics that you're asking them to do?
Well, not personally, but I think the main thing is that there are people out there in need, and hopefully that they know a system is there for them, and they can get the help.
Where do you live now, Darryl?
I live in the Midwest. I live in St. Louis.
All right. Are you traveling the country with
I've traveled, yes. I travel with Pharma. I travel with Ken quite a bit, and, we've done quite a few things. We've been in, several areas, New York, Buffalo, we've been all D.C., so... I've been around just, the awareness. I think the awareness for people to understand. And, of course, we know how tough it's been, tough times and everything with the economy and things are cutting, but, we just want, people to be able to, be healthy and know that, it's help out there.
I'll ask Ken a couple of questions in a sec, but let me just ask you this. Do you have any scheduled meetings with New York politicians today? Will you be seeing Governor Patterson, do you know yet, or any of the legislative leaders?
I know Governor Patterson.
You know David Patterson?
Yeah, I've seen him.
He's right downstairs. I mean,
I've seen him quite a bit, in the city from time to time and at different events, and very nice man, and we spoke and everything. So.
Right now, you don't have any plans to meet with him, though?
Not right now at this point.
Ken, let me ask you if you would talk about your role. I mean, you're one of the senior lobbyists, I would take it, nationally.
No, actually I'm not. I'm in public affairs.
Okay, public affairs, but you're one of the senior vice president of Pharma.
Yep, communications and public affairs. What we're trying to do, Fred, is to raise awareness of the new medicines that are available to people that really, provide hope for the future. New York is the second largest state now in terms of the biopharmaceutical sector. But even more importantly, you brought up an important point about how the state's facing a lot of cuts right now. The biggest budget buster of all for every state in the country today is the devastating costs associated with chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, asthma, right on down the line. Chronic diseases cost the state of New York $90 billion a year, $20 billion a year in treatment costs, and $70 billion in lost productivity. Think for a second if you could just put a percentage of that money into building schools and rebuilding roads and putting people back to work together again. So what we're trying to do is to raise awareness of not only the programs that are available to help people, but also the importance of taking chronic diseases very seriously if we want to improve not only the health of the economy, but also the health of people.
Is there any reason to believe, though, that this state doesn't take these kinds of diseases very seriously? I mean,
no, it does. Yeah. But look, if you talk about a budget crisis today, wait till 2010 or 2020 rather, 10 years from now, and see what happens with the budget when today we're facing an epidemic of childhood obesity.
Right.
We've got to take that problem very, very seriously. Since 2000, any kid born since 2000 stands a greater chance of living less long than their parents for the first time in American history because
pretty
of childhood.
remarkable.
That's scary.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that obesity is treatable in many cases and even preventable. And so what we've got to do is to take this seriously, because we've got kids that are 9, 10, 11 years old that are being diagnosed with full-blown diabetes. And that's unheard of, and we've got to do something about it.
Darryl, did you hear about the governor's proposal? He proposed it in the budget this year to have a special tax on sugared soft drinks that would raise, close to $1 billion a year. Part of the argument for that was that by raising the cost of sugared drinks, Cokes or whatever they may be, that would serve as a deterrent for young people not to drink them, and it could address the problem of childhood obesity. I'm not persuaded that an extra dime on a bottle of soda is going to make a difference one way or another. But have you heard about those kinds of proposals, and do you support them?
I've heard about those kind of proposals, but you know, I don't know. Like you said, I don't know if that's going to make a difference. You know.
Do you see this problem of childhood obesity when you travel around? Can you see it with your own eyes and
yeah,
you go to schools?
You can see it with your own eyes in schools, you know, and you can see kids, you know, especially, you know, I live in the Midwest, and you can see it too with young people.
I mean, I think you just see more and more heavy people around, and it's kind of striking compared to what you might have seen 20 years ago or so.
No question about it in the past, you know, and I think we need to focus in on that, especially child obesity. I think when you look at the kids, you know, and they lose they lose so much of not knowing who they could be. You know.
Well, it's lifestyle changes too, and the internet, and people sitting on their butts all the time and not getting out in a playground and not being able to play real games in a playground.
And you know, a kid who's diagnosed with diabetes before they're 20, they're like 50% more likely to eventually develop heart disease or cancer or have an amputation. So we've got to address this problem. And you know, it's one of those things where people say to us, like, well, why are you supporting living well? I mean, don't you make money? I mean, we don't want your kids to be our patients, our customers. We don't want them to be. You know, we're going to have plenty of time down the road for them to take medicines. But as a nation, we have got to take the issue of childhood obesity deadly seriously.
Yeah, we got to get the kids back to having fun. You know.
Darryl, you grew up in Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
I read your biography. There was a story in the Times this weekend, New York Times. I don't know if you saw it or not, but some of the games from New York City that kids used to play that have been lost because of lawsuits and attitudes against aggressive games. And I read it, and I grew up in the Bronx in New York, and we used to play Johnny on a Pony, Ring Alivio. These were especially Johnny on a Pony is one of the roughest games I ever played. I don't know if you ever heard of that one, but the story said they're gone now. People are afraid of lawsuits, or parents or teachers don't like the aggressive conduct for young people. And that, I would think, may be one of the reasons a lot of young people, one of the reasons, not the only reason, could be obese. They're not out really playing roughhousing it. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, sometimes I think that's the case, you know, because most young people are not out, you know, and they're not active, you know, they're just sitting around. And I think what has happened, you know, more too is, you know, cell phones and computers, you know, have corrupted minds, and you know, kids sit on cell phone texting all day on a computer.
It's amazing.
All day and stuff in their face, you know, and not doing anything, you know, to be inactive. Because most of the time we were active, playing all type of games outside, hopscotch, you know, different games, you know, just to keep you active. And
especially boys coming of age with the testosterone flowing. I mean, it's just a natural sort of thing that you want outlets for that kind of aggressive. Hormonal drive. Do you play baseball anymore? Do you practice very much?
No.
Speaking of aggression, you don't throw a ball around at all?
No, I mean, I don't. I you know, of course, I work for the Mets, you know, but I don't go out and
you work for them now?
Yes.
Oh, you know, I didn't know that. What do you do for the Mets right now?
Well, I do TV. I do pre-game, post-games. I do several games during the course of the year for SNY. And I'm also like a team ambassador, like me and Seaver and
so you're very much engaged.
Yeah, I've been engaged for the last 4 years with them, you know. So
do you travel at all with the team?
No. I don't. That I won't do.
Yeah, you've had enough of that.
Had enough of that traveling, you know.
How long? You said, was it a year that you've been involved with Pharma as a spokesman?
Yeah, just about like over a year and a half with Pharma, because Ken came along, and he also supports my foundation, because I have a foundation for children affected with autism.
Right.
So he's a big advocate in that and helping out with that too.
Tell us just a little bit about the foundation, and might as well give it a plug.
Oh yeah, well, me and my wife started the foundation in '06, you know, for children that are affected with autism.
Do you have an autistic child?
No, I don't have an autistic child, but we walked in the center in St. Louis in '06 where we lived, where his sister worked, and we were completely blown away. And after we came out of that, you know, we just started pushing for them. We started raising money, and you know, because we know the seriousness of a child after he turns a certain age. You know, he's cut off after he turns 21. He's cut off from the school, and he's no longer able to go. So we're working on adult daycare, you know, for them to try to continue. Does your foundation help a particular program where you live in your community, or is it? It's in my community, also in the New York area, in Long Island.
Okay. Ken Johnson, can you tell us anything about the news today? I saw it in one paper, it may have been the Times, about Pfizer planning to maybe get rid of 1,500 to 2,000 jobs in New York City. Are you aware of that at all?
No, I'm not. But it's not surprising, because there is a consolidation that's going on in the industry, some belt tightening. But again, the good news is the state still has over 225,000 biopharmaceutical-based jobs, and it still is a major contributor to the state's economy.
No question. Ken Johnson, today when you go around, who do you hope to see? Who would you be introducing Darryl Strawberry to?
Well, we're having a press conference at 11:30, and a number of state senators will be there. We were Senator Sampson just 2 weeks ago in Brooklyn to talk about another program called the Partnership for Prescription Assistance. And what it does, Fred, is it provides medicines for free or nearly free to people that are uninsured and struggling. Right. You know, we recognize as an industry that a medicine that sits on a shelf out of reach of people financially doesn't do anyone any good. So we started the PPA 5 years ago, and since then we've helped over 6.5 million people, and we've given away $16 billion worth of free medicine to people that are uninsured and struggling. And I'm proud to say that here in New York, over 200,000 people have taken part in the program. Now, the flip side of that is there are probably another 500,000 people around New York who would qualify for help right now, this very minute, this very instant, if they just knew about the program. So part of our message today will be to tell people that help's available to them. All they have to do is call our toll-free number, 1-888-4PPA-NOW, or go on to our website, www.pparx.org. We'll ask you 10 easy questions, and within about 10 minutes, we'll have a pretty good idea what you qualify for.
We're here with Darryl Strawberry, the famed ball player, and Ken Johnson, the senior VP with PhRMA, National Pharmaceutical Lobbying Group. Is that the way to describe it? Trade Association. Did PhRMA, in the end, can back the President's health care bill that was eventually...
No, we supported it.
You did back it.
We're the major industry that backed it, the first major industry, and it's for a simple reason, Fred. We believe that every single person in America should have access to high-quality, affordable health care coverage. Not just the lucky ones with insurance, not just the privileged few, but every single person. That's why we supported it.
Well, it's certainly a noble goal. I guess the question was, could the country afford it, and will it be able to, or will we wind up with a system that starts rationing? I guess the drug companies felt they were going to make out pretty well into this, so it's a business decision as much as anything.
But more importantly, it was the right thing to do. I mean, I've heard that time and time again from people to say, well, you're going to sign up new customers. The simple fact of the matter is, of the 50 million people that are uninsured today, 65% of them are under the age of 35. They're relatively healthy. They don't take medicines. So, it's not going to be a big bonanza to the drug companies. The big bonanza for us will be down the road if we can improve the quality of life for millions of Americans, where we can cut down on some of the expensive procedures. Look, I'm going to say it as simply as I can. For every $1 spent on medicine, we save $6 on treatment costs.
Darryl Strawberry, when you were in the city, in New York City, for the Mets, where do you stay? Do you stay in Manhattan? Are you there very often?
Too much.
Too much? You mean you miss home?
Yeah, of course I do. I definitely miss home. But yes, I'm there quite a bit during the summer of baseball, and I stay in Manhattan and also stay out in Long Island. When I want to get away and get rest, I stay out in Long Island so I can play golf.
Yeah, that's great. Where do you like to play?
Just all over.
You ever go out to the Hamptons to way out in the east?
I've been out there before, and I told myself I'll never go out there again.
Well, the traffic
one way in, one way out.
I mean, it's kind of scary in that sense.
Well, it's just overbearing.
The beaches are beautiful. Well, if you like to fish, go for those striped bass. Does the city look good to you when you're in New York? When you're in New York City, does it look like it's holding its own, or does it look like it's declining at all? There's a growing concern because of financial problems that the city is
New York always looks the same to me. New York looks like it's a place that always holds its own, and it does well. It just depends on what kind of person you are. Do you know about the city? Do you know what's important and what's not important to be around, and what to see and what not to see? And I think a lot of times I've been there for so long, so I understand the city. And I go in and I take care of business, and then I move on to the next phase.
You think of yourself still as a West Coast kind of person, or a Midwesterner, or a New Yorker?
No. I am a true New Yorker. I always have.
That's great.
I've lived on the West Coast. I mean, I was born and raised on the West Coast, but my heart and soul is right in the thick of New York.
Keep yourself in good shape. You look like you're trim. You feeling pretty good?
I feel great. I feel great. I feel great. I mean, I don't work out no more, which is great.
Why? The pain of working out?
The pain of working out and the agony of getting up, which people always talk about, waking up to go work out. And he goes, you don't work out? I goes, no. I haven't worked out in 10 years.
Well, that's great. You see any outstanding ball players, who, just as a final question, that impress you these days? Anybody in particular you're following whose careers you're impressed with?
Well, I like New York players, more, stuck on what New York City players are. I like the David Rice and the Reyes, and then I have the old friends on the other side that play in the Bronx over there, the Jeters, the Moes, and Salas, all those guys, Pettit, that I played with and won championships with. So, I stick to the New York. I don't really look outside of New York and other teams, and I don't follow other teams.
Well, let me thank you for coming in this morning, Darryl. It's great to see you. I wish you luck with what you're trying to do.
All right, thank you so much.
You're a many people, and glad you've come back as strong as you have. And let me thank Ken Johnson from PhRMA for being with us this morning. I'll take your headset. You guys can head out.
Fred, I would like to say that on August 1st, Darryl's being inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame.
Oh, how wonderful. Right. He's a tall guy, right? 6'6" or 6'5"?
6'5".
Big guy. Well, that's a nice thing. Thanks again for coming in. We'll let them leave right now. We still have a few minutes remaining in the show. A big crowd of kids outside, and I think there's some journalists here as well who want to say hello to Darryl Strawberry, and understandably so. I'm not the biggest of baseball fans, but I certainly know Darryl Strawberry. But more importantly, when I mentioned to a few friends that Darryl Strawberry would be on, you could just see their reaction. Boy, there are kids cheering out in the hallway here. Isn't that nice?